And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Entering Unknown. I'm Adam.
I'm Todd.
There you go. Always something new every week how we get on here. Oh no, I just think I just figured something out about this thing. I really wasn't paying attention. But anyways, I'll talk to you more after the show. Tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the theories behind and the mysteries of the missing and deceased U.S. scientists. And this has been a hot topic lately. And just not now. I mean, this is recently this has been going on for a while with we're up to 13 scientists now.
But as of today, yeah.
Yeah. And see what I meant by, this is something that's been happening for a while. I mean, we could trace this back back into the 40s and when things like this first began. And we're going to be, going over some of these later on.
You can go back 100 years. Yeah.
So, yeah, ever since, you want to start, well, I might as well just start saying it. Since, the introduction of things like the Majestic 12, MK Ultra, then you have people like Phil Snyder, William Cooper, Paul Menowitz, good old Richard Doty. He's the one who went ahead and took care of that one. It was a little messed up story, but I think that guy, he has a little bit of regret about that one.
That guy, every time I hear his name, my stomach goes like that. Just twist.
But lately, when I've been seeing Richard on other shows, he's divulging more information and things like that. And he's been very upfront as of lately. Now,
remember, that's part of his whole freaking scene. He gives you little tiny bits of truth, and then he freaking feeds you full of bullshit for the rest of the way.
Exactly, and that it does make me question and wonder about him being forthcoming now and stuff like that. But I pretty much do think he does have some regrets, because when he talks about it, he in that one documentary, it's Mirage Men, it almost kind of weighs on him a little bit as well, when
I just think that's one person's depiction of him, like say the director, with the human side on him, just to try and make him look somewhat normal. I believe he doesn't have any feelings.
Yeah.
What you need to do is interview his wife.
No, but when he does talk about it, he kind of refers to it like he started really take him on as a friend when they started going out. And at one point he was like, man, they almost had me convinced that I'm actually seeing real UFOs at one point, when the Air Force was having them take out and they were fly-by craft, things like that, show them some other things. But I mean, they really messed with that guy. So
they did.
Some of the theories that we're going to be getting into tonight. We got the foreign adversary operation, or something like government, foreign espionage. I do think this does play heavy into what is happening to these people. It does make sense. And when I say, other countries like Russia, China, North Korea, maybe even places like Iran and other places in the Middle East as well. Why not? They will want to get a hold of some of the technology that we do have. Go ahead.
Yep. Including Israel, I was going to say.
Yeah, I didn't really think about them until you mentioned to me the other day,
Yeah, they played dirty pool a lot.
Yeah, I would always think of them more as a friend than foe, but who knows, Why not keep your enemies really close? You know how you keep those best friends close, but your enemies even closer? Things like that.
Exactly. I believe that's what we're doing with Israel.
Yeah. We have the UFO UAP secrecy. Some theories suggest that researchers such as anti-gravity researcher Amy Eskridge, who we will talk about tonight.
Wait a minute here. Your microphone's messing up.
No, your
microphone's messing up.
You're going in and out. Just hold on, Todd. Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yes, Todd, you're there. It's your Just let me talk, Todd. What I was saying, so people like Amy Estridge were killed and threatened because they were about to disclose information regarding ET and advanced propulsion technology. Another one is the advanced energy suppression, or also clean energy suppression. And these kind of two line together. It is believed that scientists working on clean energy or exotic technology are being silenced. With the clean energy suppression, what could work alongside is that one is theory suggests that the scientists are specializing in breakthrough that could render fossil fuels obsolete or intentionally killed. So that is a good theory right there. Let me bring Todd back on the stage. Here you go. You back with us, Todd?
I have an issue here. I keep seeing the end stream thing up in my upper right corner.
All right. I'm going to keep on talking. You figure out that issue.
I'm working on it.
We got the government cover-up. Some believe, and when I'm talking about government cover-up, I'm talking about our own government. Some believe that federal agencies are behind the disappearances and to protect classified projects, or the government is failing to protect its personnel, or internal government action to eliminate personnel with knowledge of clandestine projects, often using suicide or accidental reports to cover up claims. And I am a big believer into that one as well. Getting your stuff together, Todd, over there?
Pardon? I'm just keeping up with the comments here.
Yeah, hi, Ryan. We see you on there. All right. Some of these missing and deceased scientists are Michael David Hicks, deceased July 2023. He worked with NASA JPL astronomer, asteroid and comet physicist. Another one is Frank Mawald, deceased July 2024, JPL researcher, Earth observation and space instrumentation specialist. Anthony Chavez, missing since May 2025, retired Los Alamos National Laboratory nuclear weapons researcher, disappeared on foot. Monica Reza, missing June 2025, director of materials processing JPL, vanished while hiking in the Angeles National Forest. Melissa Castillo,
within sight of a highway. Yeah, she was within sight of a highway where she supposedly went missing.
Yeah,
in broad daylight.
Yeah, please help me fill in some of this information, Todd, because you got a buttload over there. Oh, we got Melissa Cassis, missing since June 2025, administrative assistant at Los Alamos National Laboratory, last seen near her home in New Mexico. Stephen Garcia, missing August 2025, property custodian with high-level clearance, nuclear security, disappeared from Albuquerque home. We got one of the more famous ones here, and they're all big names, famously what has been talked about lately, William Neal McCaslin. And we're going to be really hitting on him lately because something just does not sit right with me about his disappearance, and especially things that his wife said. He's been missing since February of 2026. He's a retired Air Force Major General, former Air Force Research Lab commander, missing from his home. Got Jason Thomas, deceased since March 2026. Pharmaceutical scientist / biologist found dead in a Massachusetts lake after vanishing. Carl Grilmar. I might have chopped up that name. My bad. He's been dead since February 2026. Caltech astrophysicist, collaborator with NASA JPL, killed on his front porch. And I believe the last two people who I was talking about, the one who was found dead in the Massachusetts lake, and then down here, the one I just read about, Carl, who was killed on his front porch. I believe these two individuals, I didn't write it down, but I was reading about it. These two individuals were shot. What's up?
Okay, the guy that shot Carl, his name was Freddie Schneider.
Okay.
They had him in custody. He pled not guilty, and they let him go.
Really?
They didn't charge him for murder. They got him for acting strange and on private property. It's just weird,
Did they find the weapon or anything like that was used?
No.
No? Huh. That's weird. So, I mean, you can't really hold somebody on acted strange. And I understand that part because we do have some due process laws, you know?
Right.
How's it going, Jared? What's up?
You know, I'll go more into this when we start talking about, well, I'm going to go into it right now. I mean, it's just seriously, I mean, it's like, at this point, he's free. You know, they're not talking about murder. They're not talking about anything else. He's seen a judge. He's got one more hearing, you know, and that's it. But they're not charging him for murder. They're not charging him for anything else. But he was on the property. He was on the property the day before. Carl's wife asked him to call the police. He said no. You know, he went out there and talked to him. He came back and he said, the guy's pretty strange. He's got all these weird, you know, theories and stuff like that. And he goes, no, he's just an oddball. And then the next day, Carl gets shot in the head.
Really? So he was never invited out on the property or nothing like that? Not really a close friend or anything, huh?
No. He just showed up.
That is a little weird. I mean, but at the same time, like I said, how we have our due process laws, things like that, you know, you got to have some really compelling evidence. I mean, yeah, he's there at the scene of the crime, things like that. But, you know, when I'm talking about, you know, you got to have the weapon and maybe have the ammunition on him as well or at his home to link it to that weapon, you know, with the firing pin inside the gun. And that's like given. And a lot of people don't know this is, especially people who do not own firearms. You know, when a round is shot off from that gun, on the back where it is struck on that round as it ejects, it kind of leaves like its own little fingerprint, you know, just like how we have on our hands. And a lot of when they do start investigating into murders and things like that, or when a firearm is used in a crime, and they get a hold of that, that's what they use because it's going to hit it like that basically every single time, unless that gun really screws up. But like I said, it's kind of like its own little fingerprint, you know?
Just like the grooves in the barrel. Each barrel's grooves are a little bit different. There's different defects in the flaws inside there that show up on the bullet, but not the casing. Yeah. And so when they retrieve the bullet, they can match that up with the gun just by looking at it under a microscope.
Absolutely. You know, another thing is after someone fires their firearm, you got the gunpowder residue that gets on your hand, arm, things like that, you know?
Yeah. And, well, that washes off pretty easily, but
it does. Go on.
If you give them time that they can, you know, that can be covered up, be real easy. But the fact of the matter is, it's on your clothing, it's on your hand, your skin, and that shows up under luminol, or not luminol, but it does show up, just like blood does under luminol when you don't see it. But it's there.
And a lot of people sit there and try to mop it up and everything, and even use bleach and all these other kind of cleaners, and they're able to see you using that, and you can see the white marks and everything, you know?
Yeah, you can see that you smeared it all over the place trying to clean it up.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
Another person, I got a couple more people. I might chop this name up. Nuno Larillo. Larillo or something like that? I might have chopped that name up. And they're dead since December of 2025. MIT researcher, plasma science, Amy Eskridge, who we are going to further talk about tonight too. And she's been a really famous discussion as of lately. And man, it was a really great podcast I watched the other day. And now I finally figured out where the people are talking about these P45s and what is it, P57s, and they're showing these faces and the little story behind that. Maybe when you're talking more about her later on, I'll pull that up as well so I could further elaborate. But it's kind of like some end of the world destruction thing that happens, and you have like people that go underground to survive, and then you have people that stay above ground to survive, and you know, over time it changes the way they look and everything. It's pretty wild, you know. She has been
Yeah.
dead since June 2025, founded the Institute for Exotic Science, and she was also an anti-gravity researcher. Ning Li,
Mhm.
dead since 2021, University of Huntsville physicist, founded AC Gravity. And then you also got Matthew Sullivan, dead since 2024, who's a researcher. And I didn't get really much on him. I was kind of being lazy on some of the things, but I'm sure you have a lot more than that. One of the first
I
ones
do.
out, huh?
I said I do, but I can't keep up with you because you're rambling these names off so fast. I can't find it. I don't have anything in alphabet order here. You know, sorry. My research don't get that anal.
Let's start and jump into. Yeah, I agree with you, Ryan. Here, I'll put that one up here. It's all about government control, and he's absolutely right about that.
Yeah.
It has a lot to do with that.
It sure does.
First one I want to get into is the William McCaslin. William Neal McCaslin is an astronautical engineer in the United States Air Force, Major General, the former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, is currently the director of technology at Applied Technology Associates. Following his disappearance in February 2026, a silver alert was issued by the Bernalillo County, New Mexico Sheriff's Office. The New Mexico Search and Rescue was reportedly assisting in the investigation, and I got more people as well who I will bring up. His military career: after graduate school, McCaslin served as the Payload System Division and the Secretary of the Air Force Office of Special Projects 6 and 8 at Los Angeles Air Force Base, California, until 1985, when he returned to MIT to pursue a doctorate degree. After graduation, he returned to Los Angeles Air Force Base as an assistant director of the Office of Special Projects 13. As a lieutenant, McCaslin reportedly stood out among his peers, becoming one of just a handful of lower officers given a large program leadership responsibilities for his high classified development units within what became the birth of the Air Force Satellite Reconnaissance as it exists today. In 1992, he moved to Buckley Air Force Base, Colorado, serving as director of the missions planning for the Aerospace Data Facility through 1994. After a hiatus in 1995 to attend an Air War College, he returned to the Buckley Command, the Operations Squadron at the ADF, through 1997. After Buckley, he returned to the Los Angeles Air Force Base and spent 3 years as a chief engineer of Navstar GPS Joint Program Office, the controlling authority for the global positioning system for the government, commercial, and consumer applications. In 2000, he took control of the Space-Based Laser Project Office at LA Air Force Base as Systems Program Director, before moving to Kirkland Air Force Base in New Mexico a year later to begin a 3-year stint as Material Wing Director, Air Force Research Laboratory, Space Vehicles, and commander of the Phillips Research Site. Several of these postings involved a close work with the National Reconnaissance Office. In 2004, McCaslin became the vice commander of the Ogden Air Logistics Center, a facility at the Hill Air Force Base in Utah, spending a year leading operations before returning yet again to LA Air Force Base as vice commander of the Space and Missile Systems Center. In 2007, McCaslin was assigned to the Pentagon as director of space acquisition within the office of under the Secretary of the Air Force. In 2009, he was promoted to director of special programs within the office of Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics. Serving as the director of the special program, he also made McCaslin executive secretary for the Special Access Program Oversight Committee, SAPOC, in charge of the oversight and review the body of the full preview of all the America most sensitive and secretive knowledge capabilities and programs. In May of 2011, McCaslin left Washington for his final posting, assuming command of Air Force Research Laboratory at none other than Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, a position he held until his retirement in October of 2013. At the AFRL, he led billions of dollars in advanced material sciences and future weapons research across the largest scientific centers in the Department of Defense. Man, this guy, he put in some work, you know?
Yeah, he did.
And you know, from being in the military, just like I do, I mean, he traveled around a lot, but to work in like sensitive areas as he did, especially finishing off his command at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. If people don't know about that base, it is said, allegedly, is what they're saying, is where they took the wreckage of the Roswell crash to that place. And also, when they talk about the Giant of Kandahar, they also link that, where they took the body there too. And not only that, oh man, there was one more. Oh, it's actually the birthplace where Majestic 12 was at, along with Project Blue Book and other programs like that. So you pretty much got to watch your ass when you work there. But they also talk about how they have built down on at Wright-Patterson, inside hangars, they go down deep underground as well, I'm going to go down to his disappearance. According to the Albuquerque Journal, the 68-year-old McCaslin was reported missing on Friday, February 27th, 2026 by New Mexico. Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office. I get tongue-tied trying to say that one. My apologies. Which issued a silver alert. It is unknown what he was wearing or where he was heading. BCSO spokesperson Deanna Aragon said in the news release, due to his medical issues, law enforcement is concerned for his safety. On Sunday afternoon, Aragon of the New Mexico Search and Rescue was assisting with the investigation. According to Newsweek, his phone, prescription glasses, and wearable devices were located at his residence, but missing items included his hiking boots, his wallet, and a .38 caliber revolver. Police also said he suffered from an unspecified medical condition. McCaslin's disappearance in the central element in the missing scientists' conspiracy theories, which we're getting into tonight, was posits that UFOs are somehow related to a number of missing or dead scientists. It could be a little debated on there. I'm not necessarily going with the UFOs unless one abducted you, you know that. But maybe if you worked around sensitive material dealing with them is where I could get into it,
Let's hold up for a second. The Lowdown writes, does anybody else find his wife's statement about his disappearance odd? Yes, because in the statement that she gave to the police, she made some comment about him not wanting to live his life with what's going on with him mentally. He was either suffering from some kind of dementia coming on, and he didn't want to live his life like that. She made mention about that in the police statement.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's really odd. So, but they're not telling you is that he probably, there's a good chance that he might have gone out to kill himself and not be found, so his wife can collect the life insurance, because life insurance doesn't pay out on suicides, and we're not supposed to be using that word on YouTube, so we're not going to get monetized. Not that we're monetized now, and I don't care. It needs to be said, and I'm not going to say the S word, that could be anything, Anyway, so he was having mental health issues, and that's why he retired when he did. I mean, with his background, he could have worked in the military until he died. Some of them generals,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm back.
So.
Let me go.
Yeah.
Let me just finish this off real quick. As of April 2026, his disappearance under the investigation is part of the White House probe into people with high government clearance and scientists who have died and gone missing in recent years, including Monica Jacinto, a material engineer at NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory with JPL, which I was mentioning earlier, Caltech astronomer Carl Grillmeyer, and MIT fusion scientist Nuno Laurelio, among others, and who I listed before. But I also have some other side notes on it, and we're going to get into. I do like how Jared did bring that up because when his wife, when she was sitting there giving off statements saying no, it can't be this, no, it can't be that, she was also doing it in a jokingly way, talking about there was no mothership in the sky that night when he was taken away, and make cracking jokes like that. And to me, I know I'm a married man. If my wife went missing, I'm not going to sit there and crack any kind of jokes at all about it. I'm going to take it very seriously, and I would hope my wife would too, because that's the person you love, you spend your life with. That's your everything right there. Your ride or die. You know what I'm saying? So for her to sit there and to say the kind of things that she was saying, almost in a joking way, it does kind of make you scratch your head. And I can get behind that. A lot of people do sit there, and when there is a decent life insurance policy or something like that, to be collected on, a lot of times they like to, maybe put something in your drink or food, and there you go. So make sure you don't piss off your significant other.
You're watching too many Lifetime channels, man.
Real shit, dude. That's why I don't sit there and piss my wife off too much,
No comment, because I don't have a wife, so I can't actually say it. I don't have nothing to worry about.
But what I do find, what I did mention in there, where it talks about his phone was left at home, his watch was left at home, and other
his prescription glasses.
Yeah, you would figure he would have to walk around with those, to be able to see.
Yeah, she also made a comment about that too. She goes, he needs his glasses. So
yeah,
it's very, very suspicious, or as my little sister used to say, very sus. But
I might repeat some information here, but the agencies looking for that are involved within this search, you got the FBI, the Air Force Office of Special Investigation, which we mentioned, where someone like Richard Doty worked, where they like the possibly cover up things, and he's been very vocal about that. Mm-hmm. The New Mexico Search and Rescue and Albuquerque Mountain Rescue, along with the sheriff's office there. Right. The search includes a drone and helicopter support, canine units, extensive door-to-door canvassing. No home or ring cams have him leaving his home or any street or businesses cameras either. So that whole town, the whole surrounding area, nothing. No one sees this guy coming, going, da-da-da-da-da. This guy's just, I don't know, it's like he just vanished out of thin air. One of the things I did not mention before this, there was a repair guy that did stop by the house.
Yeah, but he left before his wife left to go to the doctors.
No, she did. No, he didn't. She left.
Yeah, she did. Yes, he did. I just watched that about an hour ago.
That's not what I was watching on there. That she left while he was there.
She left at 10 minutes after 11, and she said that the handyman had come and gone. She had talked. He had come and him and her husband had a discussion, and then he left. And then she goes, and then I headed off to the doctors at 10 after 11.
We must be getting conflicting information, because all the things that I was reading has him there at the time. And that's a few shows and also reports.
That's the problem with the press. They're going with their idea already. I just telling you what she just said out of her mouth. I watched her say it.
Yeah, see, that's weird, because I got a few different places where it was saying that he was there
Yeah.
while she left.
That's just typical of the press. That's just typical of the press.
But let's just roll with that one real quick. Let's just say that.
Okay.
Now, you got a repair guy just coming there to work. All of a sudden, the wife takes off. When the wife gets home, boom, the husband's gone. A lot of important things are there. You know, they talk about how there was no struggle in the house or anything like that, because even 1.25 miles away, they did find a gray Air Force sweater or, sweatshirt, but it's not confirmed to his or something like that. They're assuming it might be his, but there was no blood or anything like that as they were doing testing on it. And they are still doing further testing on that as well. Now, let's just assume he was there, What if somebody was also hiding out in this work truck or van as well? And when they talk about how there was no struggle inside the house, well, you got somebody who, the door's unlocked. They could come in, sneak around a corner, boom, have a rag all ready to put over your mouth and nose with chloroform. That would take care of the no struggle part right there. Now you got these two individuals, or it could have been one individual. He's kind of gaining his trust. I'm just theorizing here. This isn't fact, just theorizing it. Even if it was one person, put the chloroform over the nose and mouth, knocks him out, get him out into the work truck and vehicle, and boom, he is gone. Maybe this is why you are not seeing him on anybody's ring cameras on their houses. In today's world, you got street lights, everything else like that all around, which a lot of them have cameras, unless you live in rural areas like how we do up here who haven't caught up with technology yet. But even businesses all around town as well. Is there anything else you would like to add on to that one, Todd?
Well, no, I'm trying to answer a question here.
What do you got? Here, I'm going to go ahead and pop it up here. Are you talking about the last one from Jared?
Yeah, it's like, okay, here's the answer. I'll pop it out right there, even though it's a mess. Yeah, once the court declares him dead, the life insurance policy then will pay out. But not until then. They have to have, a death certificate before they will pay out. In most insurances, unless it's specifically written otherwise. I'm not an insurance guy, but, I've been around, so that's what I learned.
Yeah, they're definitely going to investigate. No funny business, huh?
Yeah, they got to make sure. It's not like, they did it deliberately. She did it to try and collect some money. They don't want to pay out if they don't have to.
Now, they did release a photo of McCaslin, and he was wearing like a green button-up type shirt, almost something, the best way I could describe it, like when you go hiking, like a Columbia shirt or something like that, something that we would wear to go hiking or camping or like that. So, like color green button-up shirt. You got his boots missing and you got his gun missing. They say this guy is an outdoors enthusiast. He loves to get out there. He likes to hike around. He is in good shape, is what they say. So you got those boots missing, but if I was to leave the house and go hiking out in the wild or the woods or the forest, I do want to take things like my phone, my Apple Watch, anything that can locate me, So I'm thinking one of these times, if a body does surface with him, which still has it, they're going to make this look like an accident because they're getting very vocal about how this guy is an outdoor enthusiast and everything like that. What do you think?
Well, I don't think it's when they do find him, his body's going to be so decomposed, they're not going to be able to tell what killed him. And at least they're not, physically killed him. I mean, if he was poisoned to death and he went out for a hike and died, fell off some cliff and nobody saw him down at the bottom of some ravine,
Well, see, and And that's the thing is what they searched all around the house. You would have figured like the canine would have picked it up, things like that. You got the search and rescue out there. They're using drones. They're using helicopters. They're going over the areas.
Mhm.
Now there has been times where people have been found in places that were checked. But I'm thinking if a body is found with this guy, yeah, the body's gonna be a little messed up, but they're just gonna kind of toss it off somewhere high to where he's just sitting there smacking rocks and everything, be like, oh, there he is, you know. But still, months later, we still haven't found anything like that. Would you kind of put his disappearance into possibly our own government, given his background, or even possibly of foreign?
I would I want to blame a foreign country. I really do. I mean, yeah, I know our government offs people all the time. I hate to put it that way, but with people with this kind of security clearances and stuff like that, that pushes it more towards a foreign policy, foreign government, foreign entity, at least, you know. And how can they be in our country? Very easily. We had open borders for the last 4 years of the 4 years of the last administration. Anybody could have came across. We know we have sleeper cells in this country because of it.
We do.
FBI is keeping tabs on those. The FBI can only do so much. They can't even find Nancy Guthrie's mom. It's like, it's what we're, that's the only way I can look at it. Is seriously, wow, the sun's starting to come through the window for the first time in 2 days. What is that? It feels like a spotlight.
Yeah, you're getting blinded by the light, huh?
Dang right. It's coming right in here, bouncing off the back of my glasses, right into my eye. What else? I don't know. In this one, I have a tendency because it hits close to home. My dad was a military officer, and shortly after he got out, he started showing up signs of Alzheimer's. He was in for 27 years, probably, a little longer than McCaslin here, but and I seen what my mom and the rest of us went through living with that, And if my dad had to, I don't know. I think my dad would have had it his way. He probably would have put himself down. So to put my mom and the rest of us out of living in grief of my dad being mentally sick for 20 something odd years, that's why this one I think is just one name out of the bunch that. He falls right into the category with everybody else, but it's questionable, I'm not sure.
I could go 50-50 on this one. I could go 50-50 with the foreign government because the extensive work he did, the knowledge he carries, everything else. But at the same time, which I forgot to mention, is he was in conversation and talks with Tom DeLonge. And they got they talked for hours. He was kind of divulging information to him about his past work. And, and if Tom DeLonge, he was a part of Blink-182. I grew up listening to him. Awesome band when I was growing up at the time. I was really into him, But as he got older, got away from the music industry, he got into big with the UFOs, the extraterrestrials, and the programs like that.
So he's
got some big names.
He's got this project. He's got a project right now. It's a disclosure project to try and get the government to disclose all the UFO information. And it's called through his project or through his programs called To the Stars Academy.
Yeah. And he's got some big names working for him too. That have worked with the government. So maybe as he's sitting there divulging information, and somebody like McCaslin, you're going to kind of want to keep track on this guy. They are going to bug his phone and things like that, and they're going to keep tabs on this guy. So if he's out there divulging information, especially when he's working at places like Wright-Patterson, and other places like that, and all the work that I read about earlier, you're going to keep tabs on this guy. Now, if he's out there talking more and more and more, they're going to be like, hey, man, maybe we might want to shut this guy up, and they're going to go ahead and do their thing. Another thing I was looking online, and I was kind of going through when I was on the TikTok account earlier, is one thing I didn't think about was somebody was like, well, they're often hiding. They're feeling paranoid, things like that. But I mean, I could kind of see into why somebody would say that. Maybe they're going to get asked to come forward and speak, to our government, like about the UFO disclosure is the way I want to put it. If that makes any kind of sense. And they're going to be summoned to hearings and talk about the work and what they know, everything like that. Try to get as much information out of them as possible. So these people, instead of doing that, they just take off and go into hiding and purposely hiding out. But I don't think that's what's going on right now with William. I'm 50-50. I'm 50 on foreign government, 50 on our own government. It could be either or for me. And you brought up a good fact with the sleeper cells. We did have a ton, and I mean a ton of people, and a lot of age-fighting males at that, coming across our borders over those last 4 years. And they were from countries that aren't very friendly with us. And we have a lot of enemies out there, And once they crossed that border, they went poof, like cockroaches when you flip on a light bulb, and they just spread on out. And they went to the area.
Yeah. According to this, it's like the FBI suggests that, there's modern day espionage from foreign adversaries. That's what the FBI believes right now.
Yeah.
And then so there's a congressional probe going on. I think it might be speared with Representative Eric Burlison, represents Missouri. They launched a probe this week into the string of missing scientists that is sparked by the disappearance of the former high-ranking officials who oversaw some of the military's most classified research programs. Hang on a second. I'm fighting paperwork here. Eric Burlison told Fox News in a digital interview that he was particularly taken aback by the disappearance of the retired Air Force general who vanished in February from his Albuquerque, New Mexico home. His phone, prescription glasses, the one was left behind. The Missouri Republican said that the staff is already working to contact McCaslin, who he described as the UFO general, due to his deep expertise about the separate congressional investigations prior to his disappearance. Yeah, it's in the sheriff's department. String of scientists, deaths, vanishings, missing experts, talks of shadow ops and silent secrets. Very serious. The government's taking this very serious now since it's gotten up to that number. And it's even higher now than it was when I worked this stuff out. It's like astronomical engineers, hiking boots, wallet, and a .38 caliber is the only thing that was missing from the house. The federal officials have not identified a connection between the missing scientists and their shared field, and potential access to sensitive research have sparked growing concern. I disagree with them. Oh, yeah, they should. They should have thought about that first. Asked by Fox News Digital whether the suspect's foul play is involved in McCaslin's disappearance, Burlison said, "I'm not going to jump into that conclusion, but it's certainly suspicious. How many people walk out their front door without their phone, their wallet, their keys, or anything?" He added, "I don't go anywhere without my phone. I don't even mow the lawn without my phone." Well, he might be younger than McCaslin, but with a guy with that background, I think I'd have my phone on me all the time too. So it's just really, really strange that in about a 5-month period of time, 4 and 5 people walked out their front doors and never returned. And we're doing advanced aerospace research, Burleson says. Who have allegedly vanished. They have also asked for a staff-level briefing by April 27th, which I'm wondering if they did because, like I said, I was working on this for a while. Giving them only a week to prepare, the spokesman for the House Oversight Committee said that the panel will be releasing updates as the investigation proceeds. I have a letter here from the Oversight Committee, which I'm going to read in a second. Monday, that it will convene an interagency effort to probe the missing scientists, but be cautioned that it yet to identify any threats. And at this time, nothing related to NASA indicates a national security threat. NASA spokesman Bethany Stevens wrote, the agency is committed to transparency and will provide more information as it becomes available. We know about NASA's transparency. That's why it takes them years to put out photographs that they take of their missions so they can doctor them up so they can hide everything. We know NASA. We don't trust you. So they might be behind this, you know? So, that's just a throw out. House Investigative Committee is looking into the cases of the dead and missing scientists. Representative James Cromer from Kentucky thought speculation surrounding the deaths and disappearances of about a dozen scientists in the United States sounded like some kind of crazy conspiracy, but doesn't think about it as that anymore. Once you see the facts, I would suggest that something sinister could be happening, and it would be a national security concern, he says. To date, there is no definitive proof linking the 11 scientists who were either killed, found dead, or reported missing over the span of less than 4 years. The parallels of their professional lives, however, have raised questions about the circumstances of some of their cases. That's a lot of people that in that particular type of field that die in just 4 years. On Monday, Cromer and Representative Eric Burleson, chairs a subcommittee on jurisdiction over energy policy, sent letters to the Pentagon, FBI, NASA, and the Department of Energy requesting information that they may have about these cases. And we know that the government does not communicate between agencies. It's like a block wall you try to get around. 4 of the scientists work for NASA, 3 specifically at its Jet Propulsion Laboratory. 2 who are still missing worked at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, known for its work on nuclear weapons. If these reports are accurate, these deaths and disappearances may represent a grave threat to U.S. national security and to U.S. personnel with access to scientific secrets. Cromer said they don't want to see if it can be put together and find any missing links to solve what's going on, because it's very unlikely that this is a coincidence. Congress is very concerned about this. Our committee is making this one of our priorities now because we view this as a national security threat. Last week, Donald Trump said he was in a meeting on this very subject, and I hope it's random, but we're going to know in the next week and a half, Trump said. I mean, they don't know. They're just reaching for straws right now.
I think a lot of it, they're going to sit there and string us along, just like how they did with this Jeffrey Epstein case. You know, not really many people.
Well, that's just another thing. Here we go. This is just another distraction from that. You know, that's it. I hate to say that, but I believe, you know, that's probably what it is, a distraction.
Yeah.
The Committee on Oversight and Government Reform put out a letter on the recent unconfirmed public reportings of the disappearances and death of individuals with access to sensitive U.S. scientific information. These reports allege that at least 10 individuals who had connection to U.S. nuclear secrets or rocket technology have died or mysteriously vanished in recent years. If the reports are accurate, these deaths and disappearances may represent a grave threat to the U.S. national security and to the U.S. personnel with access to scientific secrets. They request a briefing on the information of the department as regarding these deaths and disappearances. well as the processes and procedures in place to protect American scientific secrets and ensure personnel safety. So specifically, public reports raised questions about a possible sinister connection between the string of mysterious deaths and disappearances which began in 2023 with the death of Michael David Hicks, who worked as a scientist in the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory from 1998 to 2022. Another Jet Propulsion Lab alumni, Monica Reza, who served as the director of the NASA's Lab Materials Processing Group, disappeared while hiking in California in June of 2025 and remains missing. February 2026, the general that we were just talking about disappeared from his Albuquerque home in New Mexico with only a .38 caliber revolver. His remains missing, and reports have even alleged a direct link between Miss Reza and General McCaslin, characterizing him as having a close professional connection. Though an Air Force-funded research program in the early 2000s pertaining to advanced materials needed for reusable space vehicles and weapons. The other missing and declassified individuals, according to the reports, 2 are more affiliated with the NASA JPL, 2 affiliated with Los Alamos National Laboratory, and MIT scientists working on nuclear fusion. A pharmaceutical researcher and a government contractor working at a nuclear weapons compound found production facility. Doesn't sound like they all could be connected other than just those two separate 4 individuals.
Yeah.
When asked about these mysterious deaths and disappearances last week, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that the White House would ask the relevant federal agencies for more information. When the reporters asked President Trump a similar question the following day, he told the reporters that he had just left the meeting on that subject, which he said was pretty serious stuff, and indicated that he would have answers about it in about a week and a half. Like President Trump, the committee is concerned with this fact pattern and seeks to understand whether U.S. national security or American scientific personnel are at risk, and what each relevant agency is doing to mitigate such risk. We therefore request staff-level briefing on this subject as soon as possible, no later than April of 27. So it appears that they weren't protecting him too well.
Not at all.
You know, what can I say? Wow, that sun is just killing me.
Well, it seems like all the ones that are sitting there missing, they're just getting snatched right on up, like whether out there walking, hiking, or what have you, except for McCaslin. Yeah. He was somehow taken from his home,
Well, all of this would take months of studying their subjects that they were going to kidnap, kill, or whatever. It's not just something that they did in the spur of the moment, whoever this was, I believe.
Oh, yeah. No, when you're going to sit there and you're going to do something like a snatch and grab, you're going to sit there and you're going to plan it out. And then you're going to sit there and you're going to run it through and practice until you can do that shit blindfolded, And then when you catch them at the right place at the right time, when you're following them and you're watching them, you're like, this is what it's going to happen. They study your patterns. And that's why it's a good thing to sit there and change up patterns in your life. Don't always do the same thing each and every day,
That's a good point.
Because it just makes it easier for you to just get snatched right on up. So as I sat there, practice, watch. They were like, this is the time. This is where we're going to do it. And that's kind of the reason why I'm going with, I know I'm not saying it's a fact, but when it talks about the repair person, I'm kind of all in on that one. If you're not being seen on ring cameras, homes, street cameras, anything like that, business cams all around, he was taken right then and there, and he was thrown into a vehicle, and it was easy to get his body away right then and there. That's kind of why I'm going with it. That would throw off the scent with the canines. That would also throw off the helicopters, the drones, and everything else trying to search for your overhead as well. You know?
I haven't heard of them using canines yet.
Yeah,
That's just a strange thing. I haven't heard of it.
Well, when you're going to get in a search and rescue crew, they're going to bring in the canine dogs. Whether what kind of dogs it is. But I mean, you get some of these hounds out there, man, those things, they could track anything down. But sometimes, like when you get, now this has nothing to do with the show, when you're out there doing the things with the cryptids and, maybe if there's a Bigfoot close by, they don't want to go follow a certain trail either. But it's going to be hard to sit there and cover up a track away from these canine dogs to sniff you out. If you went from a walk from your house, you're going to be leaving some kind of scent from that front door, back door, or wherever you left from, whether it's going out the side of your house, out through the backyard, or right out front. You're going to be leaving some kind of track, scent as you're going, and they're going to follow that scent as well. They got some really good noses on them, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole time I was researching this, I wrote this question down. And it was, would powerful government institutions take extreme steps to protect certain kinds of knowledge and silence the people who hold it? And I keep coming up with mixed answers on that, but most of them favor, yeah, our government would do that. Would silence those people instead of getting that information. Since they're retiring, that the government, that Major General, since he retired, he was a loose end.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he the work, especially with the work he did and where he worked at. I mean, he had a lot of,
and since he was teaming up with Tom DeLonge, the government don't like Tom DeLonge. They don't want that information disclosed. Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on? I mean, before I get deep.
Well, I got what Jared was mentioned earlier. Susan Wilkerson, the wife of missing retired Air Force Major General William Neal McCaslin, indicated a 911 call that she believed that was deliberately went missing on February 27, 2026, stating he had planned not to be found. She reported he left behind all the stuff we marked earlier. Now, key remarks and statements are intent to disappear. In the 911 call, Wilkerson stated that I have some indication that I have some plan not to be found, nothing that he had left on foot, leaving his phone and all household vehicles behind. You got the mental and physical health. She mentioned dispatchers that her husband was seeing a doctor for anxiety, short-term memory loss, and lack of sleep. And you kind of touched on that one too, Todd. And he had previously remarked he didn't want to live like that. If his brain and body continued to deteriorate, you got disputing misinformation, which is on Facebook. She pushed back against narratives linking his disappearances to his past work, saying Neal does not have any special knowledge about ET bodies or debris from the Roswell crash. Now, let me say something about that. When you work in sensitive materials, things like that, you sign, what were they, like page 13s or something like that in the military. You're not exactly going home and pillow talking with your wife. You're not really, when you go on deployment, you're not telling her exactly what you're doing. There's a lot of things you can't say, and he's not going to be bringing his work home with him to be sitting there discussing it with his wife, because his wife could be a loose end at that point and run her mouth off to God knows who else out there, and that would put his job in jeopardy. So how the hell would she exactly know that? You got doubt on kidnapping. She dismissed theories that he was abducted for his knowledge of classified, very dated secrets as he retired 13 years prior. Dismissing confused status, contrary to some speculations, Wilkerson insisted her husband was not confused or disoriented when he disappeared, despite his health issues. In a moment of frustration, this is what we are talking about. At the surrounding speculation, she joked in a post saying maybe the best hypothesis is the aliens beamed him up on the mothership, while simultaneously reinforcing that there were no signs or abduction. Why would you joke like that? You know?
That's how she. Some people, everybody handles stress differently. Everybody handles grief differently.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Who else you got for us, Todd?
What's that?
Back again.
I can't read my notes; they're all upside down. I'm just going to cover the key aspects of these people right now, and then before I go into it too deep. The catalyst, the theory gained momentum after February 26th disappearance of William Neal McCasland in New Mexico, a retired general who formerly worked in advanced military projects and later engaged in UAP research. Common threads, the individuals numbering around 11 in April 26 had ties to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, Los Angeles National Laboratory, or specialized contractors prompting fears of a targeted campaign. The narrative, though, is the social media and various reports suggest these researchers were taken or killed to keep sensitive information about advanced propulsion, extraterrestrial, or national security projects secret. The official response, despite the intense speculation, the FBI and federal agencies began examining the cases, though many involved in the incidents were elderly, retired, or involved in fatal accidents. Skepticism. Family members and skeptics have countered that the cases were unconnected, pointing to mundane explanations like natural causes, illness, hiking accidents, such as the disappearance of Monica Reza. And all they ever found of her was her scarf. Necklace, bandana.
That's all they found of her. Nothing else. They know other things like how they talked about that was left at home or that was brought with her.
That's the key aspects right there. Investigation details. Starts out roughly 11 to 12 Indian scientists and retired military personnel with ties to NASA at Los Alamos and the JPL. The frequency of these incidents has triggered federal level inquiries. FBI investigation has conducted a holistic review to determine if these cases are connected or just purely coincidental. They ain't going to tell you this. Congressional scrutiny. The House Oversight Committee has requested briefings from the Department of Defense, NASA, Department of Energy regarding these disappearances. The theories, they believe, while some officials and family members suggest the deaths may be standard accidents, suicides, or unrelated crimes, others point to the possibility of foreign interference, mentioning Russia and Iran as potential bad actors, targeting individuals with access to classified aerospace and nuclear information. Sorry about that. Let's see the timeline of cases. June 11th, 2022, Amy Estridge, researcher focusing on gravity modification and advanced propulsion, died from what was officially ruled as a self-inflicted gunshot wound, though colleagues have since questioned that ruling. They would know her probably more so than the people investigating it. July 30th, 2023, Michael David Hicks, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory scientist, worked on the DART asteroid deflection program, died of undisclosed causes at the age of 59. July 4th, 2024, Frank Moywald, a principal researcher at the JPL specializing in microwave radiometry and space research, died in Los Angeles with no public cause of death released. May 8th, 2025, Anthony Chavez, former construction foreman at the LPL, vanished after leaving his home on foot. No signs of foul play were found, but extensive searches have yielded nothing. June 22nd, 2025, Monica Jachinko Reza, director of the JPL's Materials Processing Group, disappeared while on a hike in the Angeles National Forest. She was reportedly within 30 feet of her companion when she vanished.
What? Okay, let's stop right there. Like, say you're walking down the trail.
Suspicious, don't they?
Yeah, you know, say you're walking down a trail. I mean, come on, 30 feet away. You're gonna hear something. You know, whether you look back real quick. I mean, 30 feet isn't really that far away. Oh, you look back. Oh, hey, then you turn around, keep on walking, and poof, they're gone. You don't hear anything. You know,
she was behind him. She was behind this other guy, and he stopped because he was going to wait for her to show up because she was behind him, and she didn't. And he walked back there, and there was no sign of her.
Was this a good friend?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like a work colleague or something like that. I mean, that's just weird how you just. It wasn't
a work colleague. It was one of her neighbors. June 26, 2025, Melissa Casillas, an administrative worker at Los Angeles National Laboratory, went missing from her home. Her phone was later found to have been factory reset. So was her work phone was set to factory reset. August 28, 2025, Stephen Abel Garcia, a government contractor at the Kansas National Security Campus, which handles nuclear weapon components but not nuclear stuff, was reported missing. December 16th, 2025.
Hold on. That last person right there, that would be somebody who a foreign agency would be really wanting to get a hold of right there. You know, if you're dealing with nuclear weapons and parts and things like that, you know, that's where I could go on to the foreign espionage on that one, you know.
So the same thing with Monica Reza, too. She helped develop a new metal that they use in spacecraft, art that we use in spacecrafts.
Wow.
That no other country has. Let's see. Nuno Lorario, a plasma physicist and director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, was shot, killed outside his home. A former classmate was arrested for the incident. Now that one there, I believe, has nothing to do with the rest of these, because that one I've watched a documentary on sometime in this past year.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy stalked him and everything. He went to the same school. He was envious of the way how much better this guy was doing than him. Carl Grillmeyer, a Caltech astrophysicist known for his work on exoplanets and NASA's NEOWISE mission, was fatally shot on his front porch while the suspect was caught. No clear motive has ever been established. That's what I told you was, what's his name? I don't have it here. Anyway, the next one we know was William Neal McCaslin, retired Air Force Major General and former commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory, disappeared from his Albuquerque home, leaving behind his phone, wallet, and it doesn't say his glasses, but his glasses. March 17th, 2026, Jason Thomas, a chemical biologist at Novartis, which is a pharmaceutical company with active DoD contracts, was found dead in Massachusetts Lake 3 months after going missing. Found him.
That's the one I'm finding a little strange as well. It is the one.
Put him up there with the freaking Obama chef, man. They found him in the water.
Yeah, that one's weird to me. You know, when I was sitting there looking on that one the other night.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is what I got. And I got They tried to redact the information I just read to you, but I just got it and I unredacted it and read it to you.
There we go. Don knows how to get all that information. No secrets from you, huh?
Yeah, I can't talk about it. Advanced materials in aerospace. Okay, this is about Monica Reza and a couple of these other ones, what specifically they were working on. Her and McCaslin worked on classified Air Force program focused on advanced materials for reusable space vehicles and weaponry. She held a patent for a Mondaloy, a unique nickel-based super alloy capable of withstanding the extreme heat of rocket engines, which was utilized in the companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin. Amy Extrich, she was working on advanced propulsion systems. What these two things having together? They're all about rockets.
And she also worked with the anti-gravity as well.
That's part of rocketry too.
Yeah, and that's
the plasma. That plasma that has something to do with advanced space weaponry. Deep space observation and planetary defense is what I would call that. Just like that's what Carl and Micah David Hicks had to do with it. They're all kind of linked except for that one guy. Actually, I'd say two of them. And I haven't get a letter back from, I didn't get a letter. I wrote to the White House and I got no response. So,
of course.
I didn't expect one. From News Nation, a new news station. It's called News Station. Missing scientist death of NASA and engineer Joshua LeBlanc draws scrutiny. I like to read the editor's notes. This article contains discussions of suicide. Reader discretion is advised. If you or someone you know is struggling with the thoughts of suicide, you can find resources in your area on the National Crisis Line website or by calling 888. Thank you. That's our advertisement for today. A NASA electrical engineer was among the latest individuals joining the baffling list of U.S. researchers who have died or gone missing in their mysterious circumstances in the past half decade, which to some of you, that's 5 years. The body of 5-year-old Joshua LeBlanc was pulled from the wreckage of his Tesla July 22nd near Huntsville, Alabama. And if anybody knows anything about Teslas, they have cameras all around them that are working all the time.
Do they really?
How come it didn't catch this? Yeah, they do. You can't walk up to a Tesla and key it and get away with it. They use them for backup cameras. They use them for their sensors. There's cameras all around a Tesla, including on the inside too.
Wow.
The body of 29 LeBlanc was pulled from the burnt wreckage. I have to say that again. And identified days later by state forensic officials. LeBlanc's vehicle reportedly struck a guardrail and several trees before bursting into flames. Sounds to me like somebody took over the control on his Tesla remotely. Did you think of that one, did you? Yeah, very, very easy to do if you know anything about hacking. NASA engineer Joshua LeBlanc's family is questioning his death. Oh, yeah, I would too. He was reported missing after failing to show up for work, and his phone, wallet, and pet dog were still in his apartment. The station reported, was he to take his dog to work with him? Anyway, last summer, the family hoped video from LeBlanc's Tesla would help answer the questions of what happened at the time of his death. He worked on nuclear propulsion projects for NASA at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center as an aerospace technologies electrical engineer. So whatever happened with the footage? The young researcher fits into the profile of at least a dozen with ties to aerospace defense industries who have met mysterious fates in recent years. Naturally, as we said, speculation still has grown online about the potential connections between these cases. The recent FBI confirmed is following the deaths and disappearances may help of multiple we need help with the multiple agencies. Representative Cormier says it doesn't pass the smell test, and I agree with him. There's something very fishy going on here. Theory suggests members of the group of researchers may have been targeted by U.S. adversaries because of their work intersected with the study of unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UFOs. But in at least 2 of the cases, family members have pushed back at online conspiracies. UFO disclosure advocate David Wilcock died by suicide, family says. In a similar vein, the family of YouTuber author David Wilcock, this is the one you were talking about that should be on the list.
Yeah, that's just my personal thought, but I mean, anybody's free to think of how they want. I just think,
Right.
in the way how I was
His
telling
family
you,
don't think so either.
how I explained it to you the other day is take somebody like Robin Williams. I mean, we thought he was as happy as could be, and always out there joking around, doing this, doing that, and movies. And all of a sudden, I remember waking up one day, and it's like Robin Williams killed himself. He was very depressed. I'm like, what? So I mean, possibly that could have happened with somebody like David Wilcock, with mental illness or something like that. And that's just my personal thought. So I didn't really associate him with somebody like the Amy Eskridge and the William McCaslin and Chavez and all them.
Yeah, it's very weird. Other personnel under review. Frank Merriwald, principal researcher and specialist in microwave radiometry, and David Hicks. Those 2. And Anthony Chavez, Stephen Garcia, Melissa Casillas, they're all linked together. Investigation. While online speculation often links these cases to UFO research or corporate espionage, families of several victims, including Carl Grillmeyer and Michael Hicks, have discussed these connections as absolute nonsense, pointing to the specific suspects are health issues. The FBI continues to treat the cases as potentially unrelated, but is conducting a holistic review to ensure that there is no broader threat to national security. Then brings up the question, would you like to see the specific causes of death or police reports associated with the individuals who were the victims of the crime? And I answered, yeah. But we don't have time for them to send us that information. I don't have time to fill out that many Freedom of Information Act forms. Federal agencies and lawmakers are currently investigating whether foreign sleeper cells or sinister operations are involved in this deaths and disappearances of 10 to 13 scientists reported since 2022. While no definitive link to sleeper cells has been proven, the possibility is primary focus of several active inquiries. And I recommend that too. The FBI and the Congressional Probe is spearheading the effort to look for connections between these cases. House Oversight Chairman James Comer has explicitly described the situation as a national security issue, mentions concerns regarding Chinese sleeper cells, potential targeting personnel with access to sensitive scientific secrets. Foreign intelligence operations, some lawmakers and security analysis have speculated that the pattern may be a foreign operation designed to eliminate experts in high security fields like nuclear fusion, hypersonics, and advanced aerospace, and not to include advanced metallurgy. Sleeper cell warnings. Recent intelligence reports have highlighted a general highlighting threat from Iranian sleeper cells. So that's 2 that we know for a fact. In the U.S., though it is unclear that they directly link these specific scientists to these cases, I know of at least 113 Middle Eastern sleeper cells we have in our country right now. And don't ask me how I know that. I'll just have to say, I don't know. Despite the high level concern Many officials and experts urge caution. It says Occam's razor. Some investigators, including former FBI agents, suggest that many of these cases have individual mundane explanations, such as medical issues, suicides, or unrelated cases, and that a large-scale conspiracy is unlikely. Lack of evidence. As of late of April 2026, the FBI and NASA have stated there is no confirmed evidence connecting these deaths to a single nefarious plot or national security threat. For official updates and details on the congressional inquiry, you can refer to the House Oversight Committee and reports from BBC and CNN, two places I cannot rely on their reports from. As of April 2026, reports indicate China is the primary nation alongside the United States experiencing recent wave of unexpected deaths and disappearances among high-level scientists and researchers. In China, at least 9 scientists working in sensitive sectors such as defense and nuclear research have recently died unexpectedly. These reports have emerged concurrently with similar incidents in the U.S., leading to speculation about a broader geopolitical campaign. Pretty wild. Didn't think that, did you? China's got their people. That's why China's stealing ours, because theirs are going missing.
Do you possibly think it's both of us doing it to each other, us doing it to them, and them doing it to us?
Yeah, I think so. My mic keeps bugging out. Hear me?
No, I was doing that because when I talk, it's picking up through yours, and I just did that. When I'm done talking, I'll unmute it.
Oh, okay. You're censoring me.
No, that's why I keep doing it. Every time I talk, it's coming. It's like reverbing back to me.
Oh, okay. So we didn't figure that problem out.
No, it just started acting back up again.
Oh. Yeah. We don't need to go into any more of these details of these scientists because we've already covered that at least twice. That's what most of my notes are left is. This bundle here is the profiles of them scientists that are missing from our country. I could not get any information from the ones in China. Go figure. Huh?
Yeah, I had no idea it was happening over there, but I guess it could be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I shouldn't be laughing about it, but in all those spy movies, there's always some guy who's not affiliated with any country that's going around kidnapping different country scientists to use for his nefarious program to try and rule the world. That's what's going on. No, but it's just like a damn Hollywood movie, man.
I'm gonna go on here for a quick little rant about possibly our own government, and I'll unmute your mic when I'm done talking, so it's not going back. Okay, so like how we mentioned earlier in the show, it's when I talk about our own government possibly doing it to our own people. We could go back to Majestic 12. Now you have Forrestal, who was a part of Majestic 12, who thought, hey, you know what? The public shouldn't be held from this kind of information, things like that. Well, eventually they didn't like that kind of talking, and Forrestal went gone. Then you got something like MK Ultra, and Jared mentioned that earlier in the comments. Look at what happened to Frank Olson. He went out a hotel window in New York. Then you start going on to other people and whistleblowers and things like that. When you got Phil Snyder, somehow they sat there and said, well, this guy offed himself because he did it to himself with medical tubing. Now, I would try to show the photo here online, but I don't feel like getting in trouble by YouTube by me showing photos like that but if you go online, you could actually find the Phil Snyder photo. It's pretty disgusting looking, but the way that the tubing was tied around his neck, if that guy would have did that to himself and the way it was tied around his neck, there's no possible way he would pass out and it would just loosen right back up. He wouldn't have lost his life. That's somebody who came up from behind him. They wrapped it around and they went like this, and they deliberately did it until he was no longer with us. Yes, you got people like Richard Doty. He does talk about he's been actually very vocal lately about it with people like the MIB agents who, in the future we're going to be doing episodes on that, and they go around to different people whether they see UFOs or know a little bit too much. They go up there and they go, you better start going like this or it's going to be like this with you and your family. And he has talked about it, and he worked with the Air Force OSI. He drove Paul Benowitz crazy and things like that. And I mean, they really did him in good. Then you got William Cooper, man. This guy, he was very smart. He would tell all, and the way he would do it, he would send out information, things like that. We will be doing a future episode on William Cooper. But a lot of stuff, people were like, oh, he's crazy. They tried discrediting him, but it came out to be the truth as well. And look what happened. He was off on his front porch, not his front porch, his front lawn. And there's a couple little documentaries where you could go watch about him and everything like that. And it's very sad about what happened. And even the local police department in the area didn't know about what was actually happening. He thought he was going outside and there was kids messing around down on the lower part of his property. Come to find out, it was the people there to come take him out. And when he did get a shot off, but the way he was trying to fire and the way they were trying to talk about it on the documentary, it just kind of didn't make any sense of how they were like, how he was firing back at them and actually getting off good shots as well. So I wouldn't put it past our own government in doing things like this. And that's it. That's not how it's supposed to be set up. I mean, why should you be in fear for your life going to your job and working your 9 to 5, and even though it might be top secret, to have your life fear in jeopardy? The only person I really known that got away with it was Bob Lazar. When he did fear for his life and everything like that, he did the smart thing and he went and got people like George Knapp and got very vocal because he got very, very nervous. And there you go. He kind of saved the skin of his ass on that one. So there you go, Todd. You're back.
Welcome. I'm answering these questions. Why? I'm trying to say, because somebody said aliens are taking these. Why would they need to? I mean, if they can travel across galaxies, the information that we have is primitive. Anything that can travel that far, that fast, maneuver that way, doesn't have any need for the information that we have.
It's not so much the information. I think it's the work on us, and I think it's like a hybrid program that is going on with this. To make more of a hybrid. I forget how I was going to go about it, but it would be in different ways of why they would need us. And possibly there might be a sick one out there that likes to eat us as well. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure there is. I mean, I don't know what they're doing by harvesting all the humans that they are every year. Thousands of people go missing and are related somehow to UFOs every year. What are they doing with all those people? Are they eating them? Are they experimenting on them? Or are they selling us as like zoo animals, you know?
Yeah, possibly. I think they're experimenting on us, but like how I did mention earlier, just you got something like the underground base in Dulce, New Mexico, where Phil Snyder said when they were drilling down there, they came in contact and kind of got in a war with them, and
Right.
they said that we are working with them underneath there. So who knows? I mean, it could be a good little theory right there.
Could be. It could be working on us. It's kind of like that movie Cowboys and Aliens. Have you ever seen it? These aliens start taking these people from this out west, Wild West town, and these other people want to find out what the hell's going on, and they follow this, and they find out that they're using us for slaves to mine, and that's what we were in the beginning. We were developed from apes by aliens to do the dirty work for the aliens, the mine for the gold and wherever else they need it to survive their societies and to carry on their mission. I know it's out there in left field, but it's out there, and I just had to say it. It's we could be being abducted and being experimented on, or we could be food, or we could be, we could be get lucky like Ingrid Cole come and take us party for a couple of weeks in the solar system. Who knows? Nobody really actually knows. I don't think. I mean, we could speculate all we want, and we could make it sound real interesting and make it almost sound believable.
Well,
but in the end, we're just saying bull.
President Eisenhower to talk about how they made the secret little deal between the Greys and the Nordics and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can. We also had to throw in something else to get their information. Humans, so many humans a year they want it. I believe each country, somewhere in my vast reading, I've come across this little story, and they made it sound like this could be true, this cannot be true, but take it as you want, with a grain of salt. Is that the aliens come here, take us away, do with us what they want, and each country has to give up 9,000 people, otherwise they'll come in and destroy our planet. For the rest of mankind's history, they're entitled to 9,000 per country every year, and all these people go missing. Or a certain percentage of each population. Kind of strange, but it makes you wonder.
Well, then
somebody that had a real good imagination came up with that one, because I do like reading a lot of science fiction. And that's probably where I picked that up from, but I just can't remember from what book I read it.
Well, then you got something like how I just mentioned in the comments, Admiral Byrd, he flew down into that hole. He was guided in there by the crafts, and he met with some type of species down there and said, hey, you guys need to stop setting off all these nuclear weapons and everything. It's shaking the ground down here. You guys are going to end up destroying this planet and killing everything and all the good hard work and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, it could be that. That would actually disprove the Flat Earth Society. Yeah, you can only go so far before you fall through. It's like, then you're really screwed.
Yeah. But no, I don't really have too much else on that. I think we put out a good little information throughout the couple theories. I think a lot of it either has to do because of the work they did with our own government taking them, kidnapping. A lot of it, the espionage, with the foreign agencies, things like that. It would make a lot of sense with that one as well. I mean, any theory is possible, though. Like, there's nothing that is a fact here, and
That's right.
Like I said earlier, it's all a distraction. It's all something that we're not going to be told the truth. We're only going to be fed little tidbits here, and then it's eventually going to vanish away, and people are going to quit talking about it, and then it's going to move on to the next big thing to get our minds off.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah, as humans, we have an attention span of about a week, maybe two, and then something else comes on, takes its place. Well, it does with me anyway, but I've been looking into this for about 3 months, and I just barely touched the tip of the iceberg. And the rest gets so far-fetched, I don't even want to think about it, because it just starts sounding like somebody's just writing something just to sell an article.
It caught my eye. I think it was Jesse Waters. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does like Water World or something like that on the news. Let me mute you real quick. I found out about, I got into it when it came in the McClassen, when it was reported on there, and I seen him pop on, and I think I was on one of those social media. It was probably Facebook. And I was sitting there watching him talk about it. I was like, oh, this is a little strange. So I start popping on the Google, start typing some things in. And I'm like, oh, okay. This is not the first time this is happening. And that's when all these other names started popping up more and more and more. And then there we go. And that's how we led to here.
Yeah, it was about 3 months ago when McCaslin disappeared. That's what got me into it too. And that's when I started my little research, and I started sending up feelers to people that I know and see what they said. Yeah, it's pretty weird. It's pretty damn weird. And they all got ties to Epstein Island.
And that's the thing. It's like we're being distracted when everybody wanted more answers from that case. All of a sudden, we started hearing more and more about this, and that's the whole distraction part right there.
Yep.
But
yeah.
Yeah, that's all
just,
I got.
That's all I got. I mean, it's all my notes. They all come right back to where we are right now. As of yet, we'll close with this. No firm link yet. While suspicions of a sinister connection exist, authorities have not officially established a formal link between all the cases. And with that, we want your input. Email us at enteringtheunknown22gmail.com with your theories on what's going on. I would really love to read some of that. I really would. That's your homework for the next 2 weeks.
I got a few things before we end the show. I'm gonna go ahead and mute Mike again. I've been very busy last week. Todd, he's gonna be going featured on the show for an interview, but go check out the Lowdown FL on YouTube. Jared Lowe, great guy. He had me on there for an interview. Todd's going to be getting asked to be on there for an interview. Our next show, we're going to be having Thomas Sewick come on. And that's going to be a wonderful, great interview. And I've been looking for this one for a very long time. And he's agreed to come on our show. And Thomas is a First Nation member. He's going to be coming on, talk about his encounters and experiences and all the knowledge and research he has about Bigfoot, and be sharing that with us. And like I mentioned, as a First Nations member. So this is going to be really cool about having him on. Next Wednesday, I just got asked to go on to Linda Eastburn interview, and I'm going to talk to you about that after the show, Todd, when we end it. She's going to be bringing me on there for an interview. So I'm going around. I'm going around doing some networking and things like that. And I'm more than happy to go on people's shows. I love working with other creators, like how I just mentioned Jared Lowe. He is an awesome guy. I cannot wait to work with him more in the future. And it was very, very good being on his show, interviewing, getting his interview on me about all my encounters and experiences that led up from me being a skeptic into a full-on believer. So thank you, Jared. And like I said, Todd will be on the show as well here in the near future. So be looking out for that episode. And that's on the Lowdown Podcast FL on YouTube. And you could go and find them on TikTok with the Lowdown.
Yep. Yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to hearing your interview too. So, even though I've heard all that information before, I still like listening to it.
Yeah, and I just Linda Eastern, she seems like a very cool person. I was chatting with her earlier, and Marie Dumont, over that Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group. She's been on her show and everything, and she was like, "You're really gonna like speaking with her." I was like, "Awesome." So
my camera just fell.
But that's all I got. Look out for in 2 weeks, May 21st. Like I said, Thomas Seward's going to be on. That's going to be a really great show, and I can't wait to hear everything he has to say. Anything else before we get off there, Todd?
Nope. I have nothing else to say. Keep on listening. Put the word out. Tell everybody to come on by and give us a listen. And we appreciate it. And I appreciate every one of you folks that listened all the way to the end of this broadcast. So peace be with you and have a great next 2 weeks until we see you again. Or you see us again, I should say. All right.
All right. Good night, everyone. See you later.
Good night.